This story is titled, My Wife Got Back in Shape and Decided She Could Do Better Than Me. So she filed for divorce, but quickly regretted it. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. What's up everyone? It's Dave here. Buckle up because my life turned into a wild mess not long ago. I'm 34, just your average warehouse manager living in Columbus. My life wasn't flashy, but it was steady. I had a good job, a nice house, and I was married to Carla. We'd been together for 5 years, married for 3, and I thought we had a decent thing going. Sure, we weren't that lovey-dovey couple from TV, but we made it work. Bills got paid, we had our date nights, and the occasional argument was just normal marriage stuff. Or so I thought. About 6 months ago, Carla decided to go on a big fitness journey. It came out of nowhere, but I was on board. She joined this upscale gym downtown that honestly looked more like a spa than a gym. She got herself a personal trainer, Justin, and suddenly started talking about meal prep, macros, and detox plans. I didn't mind. In fact, I encouraged her. I mean, everyone deserves to feel good about themselves, right? Plus, I figured it was just a phase, like her short-lived knitting hobby or that time she got into tarot cards. At first, I even pitched in to help her. I started taking on more of the chores, dishes, laundry, groceries, so she'd have more time to focus on her workouts. I thought it was a way to show her I cared, but slowly, things started to shift, and not in a good way. The more weight Carla lost, the bigger her ego grew. She became obsessed with her reflection, spending hours in front of the mirror tweaking her gym outfits or snapping the perfect progress pic for Instagram. She wasn't just doing this for herself, she wanted an audience. I remember this one time when I suggested we watch a movie together. It was a Friday night, and I thought we could relax like old times. She scoffed, Dave, I don't have time to sit around. I have goals to crush. Goals? What goals? We weren't talking about running a marathon or climbing Mount Everest. She was just lifting weights and drinking green sludge. But whatever, I shrugged it off. Maybe I was being the unreasonable one. Then came the morning. It started like any other. I was half asleep, nursing my coffee before heading to work, while Carla was downing her usual kale spinach disaster smoothie. She was dressed in her workout gear, scrolling through her phone like her life depended on it. Out of nowhere, she says, I deserve more in life. I looked up, still groggy. Huh? More of what? She put her smoothie down and stared at me, all serious. This marriage is holding me back, Dave. I'm filing for divorce. I swear I thought it was a joke. I even laughed, thinking she was messing with me. But she wasn't laughing. Her face was stone cold. I've outgrown this, she said, like I was some outdated piece of furniture she was ready to toss. You wouldn't understand. I sat there, completely blindsided. My wife, the woman I'd shared years of my life with, just dropped this on me like it was no big deal. I tried to process her words, but all I could feel was this mix of shock and anger boiling in my chest. What do you mean you've outgrown this? Outgrown what? She sighed, like I was a child asking too many questions. Dave, I've been working on myself, trying to be the best version of me. And frankly, this life doesn't match my potential anymore. I want more than this house, this routine, this you. Her words hit me. She didn't even sugarcoat it. I was part of the problem in her eyes. The life we'd built together wasn't good enough for her anymore. She grabbed her gym bag and walked out the door without so much as a goodbye. I sat there, staring at the half-empty glass of green sludge she left behind, wondering what the hell just happened. That day at work was a blur. I went through the motions, but my mind was stuck on Carla. Was this real? Was she actually leaving me? We'd had arguments before, sure, but divorce? It felt so sudden, so calculated. And the way she said it, like she'd been rehearsing this speech for weeks, made it clear she'd already made up her mind. Over the next few days, the cracks in our marriage became glaringly obvious. She barely spoke to me unless it was about dividing up the house or setting up mediation. She started staying out late, claiming she was at the gym or with friends. Her phone was glued to her hand, and her Instagram was blowing up with selfies and captions like, new chapter, who dis, and living my best life. Every post was a slap in the face, a reminder that she'd already moved on mentally, even if the papers weren't signed yet. One night, while scrolling through my own social media, I noticed she'd deleted every picture of us. Wedding photos? Gone. Anniversary posts? Erased. It was like I'd been scrubbed from her life entirely. Meanwhile, her new posts were racking up likes and comments from people hyping her up. You're glowing! Such an inspiration. It made me sick. None of these people knew the real Carla or what she was putting me through. Another night, I overheard her on the phone while I was getting ready for work. She was in the kitchen, talking to someone in that fake, sugary voice she used when she wanted something. Yeah, I just feel so free now, she said. I'm finally doing what makes me happy. She paused, then giggled. He doesn't even get it. He's stuck in the past. That was the moment it hit me. Carla wasn't just leaving me. She was reinventing herself, and I was the anchor she was cutting loose. But here's the thing. I'm not the kind of guy to just roll over and take it. She thought she could steamroll me and walk away with everything, but she was in for a rude awakening. This was only the beginning, and if Carla wanted a fight, she'd get one. But wait, it gets worse. One afternoon, I'm grabbing lunch at this cafe near work. I'm minding my business, scrolling through my phone, when I overhear these two dudes at the next table. They're talking about some fitness babe they found online. I didn't pay much attention until one of them said her name, Carla. My stomach dropped. They were laughing, talking about how she had some premium content she was promoting. At first, I thought, no way, not Carla. But then one of them showed her Instagram on his phone. It was her, my Carla. They went on about how she'd started teasing an OnlyFans account, posting links in her bio like, for the real workouts. My blood boiled. This wasn't just some fitness phase. She was using her newfound freedom to become a full-blown thirst trap for money. When I got home, I confronted her. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Carla, I said, trying to keep my cool. What the hell is this OnlyFans thing I'm hearing about? She looked up, completely unfazed. It's my body, Dave, my choice, and it's none of your business anymore. I couldn't believe her nerve. None of my business? We're still married. You're out here selling yourself on the internet while I'm trying to hold our lives together. She rolled her eyes, like I was some outdated fossil who just didn't get it. It's not selling myself. It's content creation. Plenty of people do it. Besides, it's not like you're paying my bills anymore. That's when it hit me. Carla didn't just want a divorce. She wanted a whole new life. One where she was the star, the main character, and I was just some extra she'd written off. She wasn't embarrassed or apologetic. If anything, she was proud, like she'd finally found her true calling as an online spectacle. Over the next few weeks, her antics escalated. She started dressing like she was auditioning for a reality show. Tight dresses, sky-high heels, makeup caked on like frosting. Every time she walked out the door, she looked like she was heading to some red carpet event, not the grocery store. And the captions? They got worse. Living my truth. No more holding back. And the one that made me want to throw my phone. She's not a wife anymore. She's a force of nature. The audacity. While Carla was out playing celebrity, I was stuck dealing with the fallout. Lawyers, paperwork, etc. But Carla wasn't as untouchable as she thought. My lawyer, Steve, absolute legend, had been doing some digging. Turns out she's been seeing a gold digger. But with a gym membership, I think you could guess whom I'm talking about. Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get messy. I'll update you ASAP. Update 1. What's up again, Reddit? It's Dave, your favorite soon-to-be divorced dude with a front row seat to my ex's drama-fueled glow-up disaster. If you've been keeping up, you know my wife Carla decided she was too good for this life, left me high and dry, and has been parading around town like she's some fitness celebrity. But let's talk about the guy who's been fueling this whole mess. Justin. Yep, her personal trainer. Real original, right? The second I heard his name, I knew this wasn't just some innocent trainer-client relationship. Justin was the type of guy you'd expect to see on a reality dating show. Shredded, spray-tanned, and about as deep as a puddle. He was all charm, muscles, and smirks, like he walked out of a bad rom-com. Carla wasn't subtle about their connection either. One day, she strutted in the house after her workout, practically glowing. Justin says I'm the strongest I've ever been, she bragged, not even looking at me. Yeah, Carla, I'm sure Justin also told you he's never trained anyone like you before, because that's his script. A few weeks later, she stopped pretending it was just workouts. She started dropping his name in casual conversations. Justin's taking me to this new vegan restaurant. Or, Justin said this protein powder is life-changing. Meanwhile, I'm standing there like, do I look like I care? But Carla wasn't just name-dropping. She was flaunting him like he was her prize. Word spread fast. Friends started texting me with sightings of Carla and Justin all over town. They were holding hands, laughing, and acting like some Instagram couple of the year. Carla didn't even try to hide it. One night, she came home, bold as ever, and said, just so you know, Justin and I are dating now. I think it's time you accept that. Oh, I accepted it, all right. Accepted that my wife had turned into a full-blown caricature of entitlement. She'd already mentally divorced me. So what did it matter to her if she added a public affair to her resume? The more I learned about Justin, the more my blood boiled. He wasn't just your average gym bro. This guy had a history. My lawyer, Steve, who deserves a damn medal at this point, did some digging and found out Justin had pulled this stunt before. Twice, actually. He had a pattern. Find a married woman, pump her up with compliments and validation, and encourage her to leave her husband. Then, once the dust settled and the money wasn't flowing, he'd vanish like Houdini. Justin was a professional homewrecker. It wasn't love, it was a hustle. He hyped these women up, made them feel invincible, and rode their wave until it wasn't convenient anymore. And Carla? She was the perfect mark. She craved attention and validation like a fish craves water. Justin had her wrapped around his finger, and she didn't even see it. The worst part was how smug he was about it. I heard from mutual acquaintances that Justin was already talking about their big plans. He apparently told someone, "Once the divorce is finalized, Carla and I are going to build an empire." Empire? Dude, you're a trainer, not a tech mogul. But sure, dream big. Justin wasn't just banking on Carla's money. He was banking on my money. Carla was demanding half my savings, spousal support, and even trying to take the house. She thought she could waltz into court, play the victim, and walk away with a golden ticket for her and Justin's new life. Little did she know, my lawyer had receipts, and I wasn't about to roll over. Let me paint you a picture of what Carla and Justin looked like as a couple. Imagine a guy who only owns tank tops, standing next to a woman who suddenly thinks she's a Kardashian. They were all over social media, posing in front of fancy cars, not theirs, and tagging themselves at expensive restaurants. I'm guessing Carla was footing the bill. It was like they were trying to scream, "Look at us, we're winning!" But to anyone with half a brain, it was clear they were overcompensating. Their relationship wasn't without cracks, though. Justin's over-the-top personality started to clash with Carla's growing diva complex. One night, I heard her on the phone in the kitchen, arguing with someone. "I don't care what your exes said about you, Justin. You're with me now, and I deserve better than your baggage." I didn't catch the rest, but it was enough to tell me their little fantasy wasn't as perfect as they wanted everyone to believe. As much as it pissed me off, there was something oddly satisfying about watching Carla go all in on Justin. She'd bet everything on this guy, thinking he was her ticket to a better life, and it was only a matter of time before the house of cards came crashing down. My lawyer and I were making sure of that. After mediation, Carla's confidence took a hit. She walked into that room acting like Beyoncé and walked out looking like a deer in headlights. It was beautiful. Justin, her ever-loyal hype man, didn't even try to comfort her. He just sulked behind her, scrolling on his phone. That was my first clue that their little empire wasn't as solid as Carla wanted everyone to believe. But let's rewind a bit. Mediation wasn't just a setback for Carla. It was a disaster. She thought she was going to come in, cry a little, and walk out with the house, half my savings, and spousal support. Carla's lawyer painted this picture of her as the underappreciated wife who sacrificed everything for my mediocre dreams. Mediocre dreams? I've been working my ass off at this warehouse job for years. Steve, my lawyer, was ready. He had spreadsheets, screenshots, and even credit card statements to back me up. Carla had been burning through our joint account for months before she filed for divorce. We're talking luxury spa days, designer clothes, and $200 dinners, while I was eating leftovers and trying to figure out what went wrong. Steve made sure the court saw every penny she wasted. Then came Justin's skeletons, his past affairs, his pattern of sweet-talking married women, and how he always bailed when the money didn't flow like he expected. The cherry on top? Steve found messages from one of Justin's exes, warning Carla to be careful. Of course, Carla didn't listen. She thought she was different. Justin's smirk was gone, too. In fact, he looked downright uncomfortable. He probably realized his little scam was unraveling in real time. Carla tried to defend him, saying, "Justin isn't like that anymore." But the evidence was stacked against them. The judge wasn't buying their act. By the end of the session, it was clear Carla wasn't going to walk away with the fortune she thought she'd get. Justin? He looked like he was already planning his exit strategy. After mediation, Carla started acting off. She wasn't as smug anymore. She still tried to post her motivational nonsense on Instagram, but the captions got desperate. Instead of living my best life, it was stuff like, growth isn't always easy, but it's worth it. Yeah, sure, Carla. Keep telling yourself that. Justin, on the other hand, was showing his true colors. He was still around, but he wasn't as present as Carla made him out to be. He started skipping out on their public appearances. No more hand-holding at fancy restaurants or couple goals gym pics. Word got around that he was already flirting with one of his other clients, a younger woman who apparently didn't come with Carla's baggage. Typical. One night, Carla came home late. I was still living in the house with her at the time, because legally I couldn't kick her out, and she stumbled in looking absolutely drained. I didn't say a word. I just sat there on the couch, watching her. She plopped her designer bag on the counter and sighed dramatically, like she wanted me to ask what was wrong. But I wasn't playing that game. I just went to my room. The next morning, Carla tried to act like everything was fine. She walked around the kitchen, making one of her kale smoothies, but her usual smugness was gone. Justin's been busy with his clients, she said, out of nowhere. I didn't respond. I knew she wanted me to bite, to ask about him, but I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. A week later, the real drama started. I got a call from Steve. Apparently, Carla had filed some last-minute paperwork, trying to claim more assets. She wanted emotional compensation for the stress I'd caused her during the marriage. Yes, you read that right. Carla thought she could get more money by blaming me for her midlife crisis. I couldn't believe the audacity. Steve, being the legend that he is, had already prepared for this nonsense. He filed a countersuit, showing how Carla had drained our accounts and emotionally manipulated the situation to her advantage. He even included her Instagram posts as evidence. The captions alone were gold, proof that she wasn't some stressed-out victim, but a self-absorbed diva living her best life at my expense. Around this time, Justin officially went MIA. He stopped showing up to their gym sessions, stopped answering her calls, and even blocked her on Instagram. Yes, blocked. Carla was losing it. I could hear her pacing around the house, calling him over and over. Justin, call me back. We need to talk. She sounded desperate, and honestly, it was satisfying. Eventually, one of her friends spilled the tea. Justin had moved on to another client, someone younger, flashier, and most importantly, not tied up in a messy divorce. Carla was devastated. She tried to play it cool, posting cryptic quotes like, "Sometimes people aren't who they seem, and you can't build an empire with someone who's playing games." But everyone knew what had happened. Her perfect man had bailed the second things got tough. This was when Carla's entitlement really started to crumble. She stopped going to the gym. Her once glamorous outfits were replaced by sweats and messy buns. She even stopped posting on Instagram for a while, which was honestly shocking. It was like her entire identity had been tied to Justin and the fantasy of their new life, and without him, she didn't know what to do. One evening, she tried to talk to me. "Dave," she said, standing in the doorway of the living room, "I think we need to reevaluate everything. This divorce it's been hard on both of us." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "What are you getting at, Carla?" She sighed dramatically, like she was the victim here. "I just think maybe we rushed into all of this. I mean, we had good times, didn't we?" I almost laughed. "Carla, you filed for divorce. You told me I was holding you back, remember? Now that Justin's gone, you're having second thoughts?" Unbelievable. She tried to play the sympathy card, talking about how lonely she was and how much she'd sacrificed for this marriage. But I wasn't buying it. "Carla," I said, cutting her off, "you made your bed. Now lie in it." Carla's little fantasy world was falling apart, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma was doing all the work. That's it for now, Reddit. I'll update you after the final court decision, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Update 2. Hey Reddit, Dave back again. You've stuck with me this long, so get ready for the grand slam of this whole mess. If you've been keeping up, Carla, my ex-wife, thought she could dive into court, take everything, and start her new life with Justin, her personal trainer. But karma came calling, and now we're in the final stretch. Let me tell you how the courtroom drama played out, and why Carla probably wishes she'd never stepped foot in there. Court day finally rolled around. Carla walked in, but it wasn't the usual diva strut I'd gotten used to. No designer blazer, no smug grin, just her and her lawyer, looking about as confident as a pair of kids walking into detention. She must have known things weren't going to go her way. The energy was off, and honestly, I loved every second of it. On the other side, there I was with Steve, my lawyer. He came prepared, carrying a binder so thick it could have doubled as a doorstop. I wasn't nervous. At this point, I had nothing to lose. Carla had already thrown every punch she had, and I was still standing. Today was about making sure I didn't just survive this. I won. Her lawyer started by presenting her emotional compensation claim I told you about earlier, painting a picture of Carla as this long-suffering wife who had been emotionally drained by my lack of support for her personal growth. Apparently, my refusal to support her fitness journey, aka her affair with Justin, had been a form of neglect. Steve, my lawyer, let her lawyer go on for a while, allowing them to dig their own hole. Then, it was our turn. Steve started by systematically dismantling their argument. He showed evidence that I'd not only supported Carla, but had gone above and beyond during her so-called fitness journey. He presented proof that I'd taken over household chores, adjusted my work schedule, and even encouraged her to pursue her goals. He read aloud text messages where I offered to make her healthy meals, supported her gym sessions, and even suggested we attend couples fitness classes to strengthen our bond. Then, Steve dropped the bomb. Carla's emotional compensation claim wasn't just baseless. It was a blatant attempt to cover up her own emotional negligence. He presented emails and texts where Carla openly ridiculed me to her friends, calling me boring and dead weight. He even had screenshots of her bragging about Justin and calling me her backup plan. But the real nail in the coffin came when Steve addressed the financial aspect of Carla's claim. He presented our bank statements, showing how Carla had funneled thousands of dollars from our joint account into her luxury lifestyle. Carla's lawyer tried to push back, but Steve wasn't done. He unveiled the ultimate piece of evidence, a journal entry from Carla that Steve had subpoenaed. In it, Carla had written about her master plan to leave me, get everything she could out of this marriage, and use the settlement money to fund her new life with Justin. The judge's face when he read that? Pure disbelief. The courtroom was dead silent as the judge flipped through the paperwork, his stern expression growing heavier with each page. Carla sat next to her lawyer, visibly tense, her polished nails nervously drumming against the table. Her confidence, which she had flaunted so boldly in mediation, had evaporated into thin air. Across from her, I sat with Steve, my lawyer, feeling a mix of anticipation and satisfaction. This was it, the moment everything Carla had spun into her narrative would unravel. The judge began by addressing Carla's emotional compensation claim. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, his voice steady but firm, "your request for emotional compensation lacks any substantive evidence." He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. "While emotional distress is a valid consideration in some cases, this court requires clear and demonstrable proof. Your claims are based on subjective feelings, not facts." He turned his attention to Steve's counter-arguments. He recounted the text messages, bank statements, and Instagram captions that painted a starkly different picture from the one Carla and her lawyer had tried to present. "Mr. Patterson," the judge said, addressing me for the first time, "you've demonstrated a clear and consistent pattern of support for your wife during the marriage. The evidence provided shows no indication of emotional neglect. In fact, it suggests the opposite. You went above and beyond to accommodate her needs and aspirations." Carla's lawyer tried to interject, stumbling over an objection that the evidence was taken out of context. The judge silenced him with a raised hand. "The context is clear, counselor. Let's move on." Next, the judge turned to the financial aspect of the case. He methodically reviewed the evidence Steve had presented. "Mrs. Patterson," the judge said, his tone growing colder, "you withdrew over $23,000 from your joint accounts in the period leading up to this divorce filing. These funds were not used for household expenses or shared needs. Instead, they were spent on luxury items, high-end dining, and personal indulgences. The court finds this behavior irresponsible and in direct violation of your marital financial obligations." Carla squirmed in her seat, her face flushing a deep red. Her lawyer attempted to downplay the spending, claiming it was part of her coping mechanism during a difficult time. The judge was unimpressed. "Coping mechanisms do not justify financial recklessness," he said sharply. Then came the house. Carla had confidently argued she was entitled to half of it, claiming she had contributed emotionally, if not financially, to its upkeep. Steve was ready for this. He provided records showing I had paid the mortgage in full, maintained the property, and even handled renovations, all while Carla contributed nothing. The judge didn't mince words. "The house will remain the property of Mr. Patterson," he declared. "Mrs. Patterson, you have no financial claim to it based on the evidence presented." Carla's jaw dropped. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but she waved him off, too stunned to respond. The judge wasn't done. "Furthermore," he continued, "due to the unauthorized use of marital funds, Mrs. Patterson is ordered to reimburse Mr. Patterson in the amount of $23,750. You could have heard a pin drop. Carla's lawyer slumped in his chair, visibly defeated. Carla herself looked like someone had knocked the wind out of her. Her carefully curated narrative had collapsed in spectacular fashion, leaving her with nothing but the consequences of her actions. The ruling was final. No appeals, no loopholes. The judge closed his folder and said, "This court is adjourned." I leaned back in my chair, a wave of relief washing over me. Justice had been served, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Leaving the courtroom, the tension in the air was palpable. Carla's lawyer was already packing up his briefcase, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Carla trailed behind him, her head hanging low. For someone who had strutted into this process with the confidence of a reality TV star, she now looked utterly defeated. Steve patted me on the back as we walked out. "We did it," he said with a small smile. I nodded, grateful for his work. He'd not only defended me but also exposed the truth behind Carla's manipulative tactics. As I exited the courthouse, I couldn't help but glance back at Carla. She was still standing there, staring blankly at the floor. For a brief moment, I felt a twinge of pity, but it quickly faded. She had orchestrated this chaos, and now she was facing the consequences. Over the next few days, the fallout of the ruling became glaringly obvious. Carla was ordered to vacate the house within 30 days, and I made sure to enforce it. She tried to stall, claiming she needed more time to get her affairs in order, but I didn't budge. I reminded her that she'd had plenty of time to prepare while she was busy flaunting her affair with Justin. Begrudgingly, she packed up her things and moved out. Watching her leave that final day was oddly satisfying. She loaded her designer luggage into an old car, one of her friends had apparently loaned it to her, and drove off without so much as a goodbye. The house, once filled with tension and resentment, suddenly felt peaceful. Carla's financial situation spiraled quickly. Without access to my income or the marital funds she'd been draining, she was left to fend for herself. She tried to sell off some of her designer clothes and handbags, but it wasn't enough to cover the debt she owed me. Word got around that she was borrowing money from friends, who were quickly growing tired of her sob stories. As for Justin, he still vanished entirely. He didn't return her calls or messages. One night, about 2 weeks after the ruling, Carla showed up at the house unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there, her once flawless appearance replaced by messy hair and tired eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Dave," she said softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "What do you want, Carla?" She hesitated, wringing her hands. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I made mistakes. Big ones. I let Justin manipulate me. I got caught up in this fantasy, and I ruined everything." Her words sounded rehearsed, but the desperation in her eyes was real. She wasn't here to apologize out of genuine remorse. She was here because she had nowhere else to turn. "I don't know what you expect me to say," I replied, my tone calm but firm. "You made your choices. You chose Justin. You chose to try and take everything from me. And now you're dealing with the fallout." Tears welled up in her eyes. Can't we at least be civil? Maybe start over? "I have nothing, Dave. I'm lost." I stared at her for a moment, feeling nothing but resolve. "Carla, I gave you everything. My support, my trust, my love, and you threw it all away. You don't get to come back now and ask for a second chance. That's not how this works." She broke down, sobbing on my porch, but I didn't flinch. After a moment, I stepped back inside and closed the door, leaving her outside with her regrets. Since that day, I've moved on. As for Carla, I've heard through the grapevine that she's still struggling to get back on her feet. She's burned bridges, lost friends, and is now facing the reality of her own choices. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock on the door, it kicks it down. And for Carla, it left her with nothing but the consequences of her actions.